What's up? Welcome to another market recap. Today is April 15th, 2025. So today was interesting. I had one, two, three, four, five. Yeah, five pairs on watch. I didn't take any trades today, surprisingly. There hasn't been a single day that I've been tracking all of this, micro time frame trading that a trade has not been executable, I guess is the word. But that's what I ran into today. So the first hour, 7 a.m., I didn't have anything on watch. The second hour, 8, I had dollar Huff, which is this trade right here. If we go back in time, so 8 o'clock, right back roughly here. So 10 minute, not too much. It really just looks like a pullback to the EMA. 1 hour, just kind of have a bullish engulfing a little bit. Nothing really crazy on the 1 hour either. It's kind of purely just off of the 2 minute time frame. Just an IBO, break above the EMA, come back for a retest, and then pretty much the target is the 10-minute 50. So the trade pulled back, but it missed triggering my entry by like a pip. This pair has a little bit of a spread on it for me. It's tradable, but it does have a little bit more of a spread than other dollar pairs because it's an exotic. But yeah, it didn't trigger. So this would have been a 2R trade. I mean, it would have been a quick 2R trade. I think it was over in all of 4 minutes. But it just didn't trigger. So there was 2R right there that I wasn't able to capture. Because I'm being really strict with this 0.382 entry. And if it doesn't give it to me, it doesn't give it to me essentially. I'm starting to track it though, because now I'm noticing that it's like when it does pull back and just tap and go, it doesn't always trigger me in when I'm right at 0.382 fib. So I'm contemplating adjusting my entry to like just above 0.382. Like sometimes what ends up happening is if the 50 EMA is above 0.382, which is currently where I want to enter, and where the limit order is set to enter, I'm thinking about moving that limit order to essentially wherever the 50 is. So if like the 50 and 0.382 are pretty much in the same area, then have the 50 act as the entry point. Because if I enter at the 50 and it's slightly above, or enter at 0.382 and the trade's going to fail, it's going to take me out regardless usually. But if the trade's going to be a success, I'm kind of running into now that it either triggers me in or it doesn't. And if it's a tap and go situation, it usually taps the EMA and just goes. So that's kind of what happened here. So it's the 8 o'clock hour. The 9 o'clock hour, I had Aussie dollar on watch. It was another IBO short right here. So on like the hourly time frame, it's starting to hit a pretty decent level right here. And you can see it more if you flip to a daily, but this goes back. So multiple touches, large price movements off of this level. So a good kind of 1 hour DDP. And then I was just waiting for some sort of a breakdown, and got it from this small kind of trend here on the 2 minute. Kind of a clear breakdown, and then just looking for a pullback. Same thing as dollar Huff. It gets incredibly close to my entry point, but doesn't trigger me in. So again, within a pip. And this is another one of those situations that even if I use the method I just described of putting limit order on the 50 EMA or 0.382, I don't think I would have been triggered in with either, because the 50 would have been higher than 0.382 at that given time. So if I defaulted to whichever one was closest to entry point, then I would default to 0.382 like I did. But it missed the entry by like a pip. And this was another tap and go situation. So as I've been tracking a lot of this data, these are the trades that I see, and that's why I've kind of transitioned to starting to use limit orders. Is there's a lot of these just tap and go, so they don't allow for a live entry. They don't. Price doesn't just come down and then slowly move back up, and then you can watch price move easily and then enter on a breakdown. It happens still, but majority of the time, I have to go check the actual statistics on it, but I want to say it's like 60% plus of the time, they don't give a live entry. It's purely just a tap and go situation. And there's times where it'll tap you in, immediately tap you out. I mean, that's the draw to using some stuff like this. But the pro to using limit orders is being able to catch movements like this when they trigger. So, and this would have been another situation where if it would have got tapped in, I would have been out of this trade in 6 minutes roughly for 2R. So the trade would have pushed and pretty much tapped 1-to-1, and then can't really do much when it just taps it. So I'd be at a break even on this trade. It would have pulled back and then collapsed, taking me for 2R. So that's 4R between these two trades that I was not able to capture today. If I was able to capture it on both of those two trades, I would have stopped for the day. The third trade I had at the 10 o'clock hour was this Euro CAD. If we replay, we'll go. Was this position right here. So it's a CBO on honestly both the 2-minute and the 10-minute time frames. So the dailies or 1 hour is not super great. It's kind of just price moving slowly down sideways-ish. But a nice, the hour before the candle closed was a nice bullish push. And then, you have the price action to justify it. So at the time of building this watch list and finding this pair, price is sitting roughly about here. And so I'm looking for price to retrace, tap this area, and then take to my profit target. But price didn't end up doing that. It just slowly continued trailing up to the point where I wanted to take profit. And so in these situations, if it just already moves to my profit target, the probability now of this trade playing out starts to reduce. So I typically don't like to take them unless it's just like a quick spike and then it comes back down and then it goes back up or something. But even those are kind of weird. Lately, I've just been trying to avoid taking a trade that's already tapped my target prior to entry. Because, there's plenty of times where there's trades like this that haven't tapped my entry. They go halfway, essentially, pull back, give me an entry, and then go to my target. And I much prefer this situation than I do trying to trade something that's already tapped my target and then pulls back. Now, that doesn't mean they don't work out. So in this particular case, this was the original position sizing and fib levels for when price was roughly here. So granted, fib levels are going to change now that price is pushed up here, and so will this position sizing some. But if I would have kept the same exact position sizing and entered at the same level, I more than likely could have here. And then price over the next few hours slowly pushed up. So the trade would have played out to some capacity. Probably would have captured like 1R or so. I imagine when price would have pushed above, I would have just locked one. And it is what it is. So the potential for 1R on this trade, but given the fact that towards the end of the hours when this started to pull back and I was already making my next watch list, this became a no trade at this point, and it's just labeled in my journal as it didn't pull back and it pushed a target already. So no trade here. Kiwi dollar was my 11 o'clock trade that I had on watch. And it did the same thing as both Aussie dollar and dollar Huff. So I didn't 100% love this trade due to the price action right here. But I do like the overall, huge push it's had. It's starting to hit some levels on like a daily time frame. It's kind of just hovering around this area right here. So you could treat this as a resistance zone or so. So the overall, short bias starting to come in on this pair is kind of what led me to it. Right? And then drew this trend line in here. It's okay. It's not great. Technically, if you draw like a trend line from here, like it still kind of hits this a little bit. So it's kind of in the way. But for the sake of trying to take a trade every single hour, it was the best thing available. And it played out. And it was the same situation. It just barely missed my limit order. So 3 trades today pretty much missed by like a pip from triggering me into the trade. And all 3 of those trades would have been 2R. So this trade would have pushed to roughly 1, tapped it, and then pulled back. So I'd be at break even if I was in it. And then price would just continue to retrace and never really broke the 5-second trend, just fell the entire time. So I would have just pushed a target, and I likely would have captured 2R on this as well. And then the last trade I had on watch was at 12 p.m. and it was pound dollar. And this was actually a 4-hour setup. So at 12 o'clock my time is when the 4-hour candle closes. So I'll typically go through and build a 4-hour watch list at the 8 o'clock hour and the 12 o'clock hour if I have not been able to find something on the 1-hour time frames, targeting the 2-minute runs. I did have something on watch for the 1-hour setups on this hour, and it was dollar Mexican, but dollar Mexican it had a real nice breakout. It was a CBO, but it didn't pull back. And then within the first 5 minutes of the hour, it went ahead and pushed to my target. And it wasn't something I was going to entertain taking since it already pushed the target and didn't give me a pullback. So I started looking for something else, and I found these 3 setups, this Aussie dollar, Kiwi dollar, which this Kiwi dollar the hour before was that, micro 2-minute play. And then this pound dollar, they're all kind of similar concepts. They're all at, certain levels starting to retrace, right? Where price has moved drastically in the past. The one I had primary was this Aussie dollar though. So I was waiting primarily for this setup to pull back. While I was waiting for this setup, my secondary setup I had on watch was this pound dollar. And I didn't love this like trend line in here. Like I had a real shallow break of it. I would have liked it more if it pushed roughly here and then came up and retested it, like the EMA and then the trend line and all that would have lined up nicely. But I didn't get that. So instead, I got the price action like this, which the overall concept fits. It's an IBO. It's still retesting the pivot area. It's between 0.382 and 618. So it's in my value area. It did give the opportunity for a live entry roughly here, right? And I'm watching it as it's doing this, and I'm watching it start to break down right here. But at the same time, I'm watching Aussie dollar pull back. And if I had a choice between the two, I like the 4-hour a heck of a lot more on Aussie dollar than I did pound dollar. It had a better price action. It had a cleaner break of this, triangle pattern. And it had essentially what I was looking for on pound dollar, this pair had. So it was just cleaner in my eyes. And since it's primary for me and I'm waiting for it to pull back, I'm not going to take a secondary setup like pound dollar. But the issue I ran into here is that pound dollar pulled back fully, gave an entry, Aussie dollar didn't. So as you can see, like my entry level 0.382 is right here. So I need price to pull somewhere in this vicinity to give me something to enter with, a 5-second trend change, 30-second trend change, maybe even a limit. I don't like to do limits on, 4-hour setups because typically you can still get a live entry on these kind of trades. Price moves slow enough. But yeah, it didn't pull back, but pound dollar did. And pound dollar roughly would have been a 1-hour trade if entering aggressively on that 5-second break right there and then exiting essentially like 1R was roughly here-ish in this area. So when price pushed down here, I would have just locked 1R. And then I would have the option either exit on this trend line break or just wait for it to tap 1R and take me out. So probably 1R could have been captured on this pound dollar. So that puts the potential R for the day at 7R. Like there was 7R in front of me today that I wasn't able to capture fully. And there's even more if you label this Euro CAD trade, right? Yeah, these are a little interesting. But it's a good example as to why I'm doing this spring 2025 project, is as I've been tracking this stuff and like watching these setups occur time and time again over the past month. And I've traded these setups too. I just haven't tried to really push the pace and push the scale at which I am. I've just kind of stopped after I've had, I'll catch one of these and I'll just stop for the day. But they occur multiple times a day. So this project, in a sense, is trying to catch as many of these movements as I can in a day and just see what happens. But with some safety measures in place, some kind of profit targets. But yeah, but it's interesting. Using the limit order style entries, you can have days like I had yesterday where nothing really was available, and the stuff that was available, once it's triggered, it took it out for full losses. Or you can have days like today where every setup essentially played out that I had on watch. They just didn't trigger in. But if they did trigger in, you would have had a 7R day, So it's a lot of potential, right? You have a 7R day and then the next day, a couple R, or just try and get 3 or 4R and call it done for the week, So. But yeah, I'll have to think about these and figure out exactly what to do. But I think the thing to do, at least, is move the limit order just a little bit beyond 0.382 where it currently sits. That's what I've been thinking about today. Because I believe that if the trade's going to play out and it triggers me in, from all the examples I've seen in the past, it'll tap and go. And if the trade's not going to play out, the same entry, it doesn't matter if the stop is necessarily a little bit below 0.618 or a little bit above 0.618, you're likely getting tapped out if the trade continues in the wrong direction and doesn't tap and go and just tap and, goes the wrong way. But yeah, interesting day. So still potential there, still interesting. Keep at it, see what tomorrow brings. Hopefully make some actual R tomorrow. I'm currently sitting at -2R for the week. So yeah, anyway, that's it for me. I will catch you guys tomorrow. See you.